In order for ufology to rise above the scorn and ridicule that it faces, and in order to determine with any degree of certainty whether or not unidentified flying objects are indeed alien in origin, it is vital that this field of study receive a minimum of physical and logistic support.
In my opinion, state intervention is indispensable if you want to do a thorough job, since the most useful sources of information are generally state agencies. If we take France, for instance, there is the state police, the Air Force, and civil aviation. Obviously, these organizations are not going to pass on information, especially the Air Force, with its need to keep defense issues confidential. It's very difficult for someone outside of these agencies to obtain information such as radar data.
In the late 1970s, France became the only member of the GA to set up such an agency. It was called Sepra. As part of its mandate, this group examines unidentified phenomena in French aerospace. Located within CNES, France's National Space Research Center, the equivalent of NASA, Sepra has been headed by engineer Jean-Jacques Velasco for quite a few years.
CNES is a public sector agency that distributes information. We don't have anything to hide. These days, we let the public know about a lot of our investigations, and we will continue to do so in the future. However, keeping the public informed of our investigations is not part of Sepra's mandate, as was the case for its predecessor, Gepan, which prepared technical notes and informational notes. The difference between the two groups is quite simple. We just don't have the means.
Although he admits that his group does not have the logistic support necessary to carry out a global study of the UFO phenomenon, Jean-Jacques Velasco does not see how Sepra could associate itself with UFO groups without putting its own credibility and that of CNES on the line.
What is commonly referred to as ufology is a large group of people primarily interested in UFO sightings. They have developed an interest in the subject as amateurs. We are not at all in the same class as those groups of amateurs. Here we do scientific work. We investigate sightings and check out the facts that are reported. Our work consists of scientifically analyzing the facts, and that's all.
Other than France, only a few countries in South America have set up official agencies to collect UFO reports, often undercover as part of their military activities. Elsewhere in the world, UFO reports are lost, destroyed, or find their way into a box in the basement of an administrative building. In Canada, the RCMP and Transport Canada used to send their reports to the National Research Centre in Ottawa. After a quick read-through, the reports were then transferred to the National Archives building, where they waited patiently for someone to come along and examine them. Recently, Canadian UFO researcher Chris Rutkowski decided to do something constructive with these reports of UFO sightings.
After the year 2000, an arrangement between myself and Transport Canada allows the reporting of objects seen in the sky to be made through them to me, and I produce an annual report of sighting activity to try and understand what it is that people were seeing. You see, the National Research Council itself was not interested in UFOs, but the possibility that UFO reports might lead to the recovery of meteorites. But I've chosen to do something with the data because I think it's important that we understand what it is that people are seeing, not what is perhaps reported in the tabloid newspapers, perhaps not what we see in the movies, but what is it that is actually seen by people. And to do that, we need the actual reports. So it is a very good arrangement from a scientific standpoint, simply collecting the data from Quebec, from Newfoundland, from British Columbia, from the Yukon and Nunavut now as well, and analyzing the data for an understanding of what it is people really are experiencing and seeing when they report a UFO.
Chris Rutkowski's initiative is an exception to the rule. In the United States, where more UFO sightings are reported than anywhere else in the world, there is no mechanism in place to provide UFO groups with a copy of these reports. They usually end up in a shredder.
One of the things to me that puzzles me that after all these years in the United States, for instance, no single repository was created for all the files. That would have been money much better spent, you know, and just create a central location where when the organizations go out of business, or which happens, you know, when the leader dies or something like that, there's nothing.
After 50 years of UFO research, how can we best sum up the results? Researchers, for the most part amateurs, have still not succeeded in rallying the science community to their cause. Living on the edge, they are constantly faced with prejudice. For the time being, UFO hunters continue their pursuit, navigating through strange worlds in the search for evidence to support their theories. Beyond the rhetoric of UFO groups, it is clear that if scientific institutions were to undertake a serious study of UFOs, they would not make long philosophical speeches on the wonders of science. They would proceed methodically, impervious to the war of words being waged by UFO groups.
The Americans need more of the sociological theory and the Europeans need less. Because in America, it's not at all liked by the ufological community, who is completely committed to strictly nuts and bolts, ET, aliens, crash saucers, genetical hybrids with abductions and so on. But in Europe, with some of these groups, you go to the other extreme where everything gets reduced to it's just a myth. But a myth still takes off from something, you know.
Myths from North America, specifically from the United States, have swept through Europe. Researchers like Scorno, myself and others have, well, I wouldn't exactly say that we've given up, but we're still interested, but no one listens to us anymore. Well, they still listen to Pierre Lagrange, who seems to be able to find ways to make himself heard. But no one really listens to us anymore. They're only interested in those myths from the United States. There's another factor that's also becoming into play: the Internet. As a professor, I have several students who are interested in UFOs, but they know nothing of all the serious research that was done on the subject. When they hear the expression flying saucer, they immediately think of the American myths and all of the information circulating on the Internet. To summarize, when I was 25 years old, UFOs were things flying around in the sky. We would go into the field to observe them. These days, young people look up information on the Internet. That's why I'm a lot less interested now. It's become a sort of virtual reality.